Oh, let's go. Oh, man. What a win, man. What a win, and what a gutsy play that was by Nico Batum. Oh, man. Nico was absolutely fuming tonight. Who would have thunk? Out of all people, Nico Batum was just that one guy that just goes out there and gives you such a dominating performance. I still can't get over this. There's a lot to talk about in regards to this game, and I want to dive into everything. But first of all, please make sure that you hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on those notification bell icons, and that way you know when I upload. All right, I appreciate you guys so much for being here. If you guys want to come on to the Discord server, please do so, because I want to hear what your thoughts are, and I want you to come on and give me your reactions down below. Come on. All right. Oh, man. Well, there's a lot to get into, and there's a lot to talk about with this game. And I think that the first thing that we got to do, I think that the first thing that we got to talk about is obviously Nico Batum and how special he was tonight. This was the Nico Batum game, and when you had a night tonight where Joel wasn't really doing a whole lot for you on the offensive side, he was being pretty passive, he wasn't really going to the rim, he wasn't attacking, right? But Nico was just there. He got a lot of open shots, and he made almost every single one that counted the most. Joel played not so good in the first half. The Sixers overall in the first half of this game, they started off strong in the very beginning of the first quarter, but then Miami throws the zone there, and all of a sudden Tyrese Maxey has 3 turnovers, right? And all of a sudden momentum is just going to Miami's side. In the second quarter, they still go to that zone. The Sixers can't adjust. But you know what kept them involved in the game? The way that they play defense. And I was really happy with how Joel did just enough on the defensive side, down low, in the post, where guys on the perimeter could play pretty good defense. I said, coming into this game, the Sixers need to make shots. And what they did down the stretch, and we'll talk about it, we will definitely talk about it, but they made the shots when they mattered the most, and Miami did not do that. The second quarter was really sloppy. Okay, you have both these teams that are just going back and forth, and you're thinking to yourself, when are the Sixers really going to just attack this zone, and when are they going to be aggressive? It didn't really happen. Miami owned them in that quarter. Nick Nurse couldn't make any sort of adjustments, and Joel Embiid still being out there with Tobias Harris. Harris was being aggressive at times, and we'll talk about Tobias Harris, don't get me wrong. But in that second quarter, it was such a mess job. They really screwed up on so many cylinders in that second quarter. But then what gets crazy is that the third quarter comes, and they get off to a slow start. Miami is still throwing this zone right there, right? And what happens next? Well, there's this brickin' for chicken chant that's going around. You know, Martin's over at the foul line. And so, all of a sudden, he misses 2 free throws in a row. Nico comes back and he hits a 3. It's like an 11-point game. He hits a 3. Now, all of a sudden, it's an 8-point game. Then, all of a sudden, you have a bad play that leads into a fast break. And now, it's a 6-point game. It's like 57-51. And that momentum right there, that change of pace, you got the crowd back involved, and guess what? Momentum was back on the Sixers side. And from there on, I know that they were playing around at the end of the third quarter. They made it a 5-point deficit, and I'm thinking, you know what? We have them right where we want them. And they took over in that fourth quarter, and it was all because of Nico Batum and the sloppiness that came down the stretch. Okay? I have a lot that I want to say, and I want to get to your thoughts for sure. I wrote down some notes here, And I think that this is a good place to start with the notes. So, we talk about Batum's block at the very end of the game with like 27 seconds to go, right? Look at this quote right here. Nico Batum said post-game that he was able to block Tyler Hero's three in the clutch because the Sixers coaching staff showed him the exact play that the Heat ended up running in just a minute before. And he said, coaches showed me that that play literally like a minute before, so I was expecting that play. And you know who that goes to right there? Nick Nurse. Because he was on point, and the coaching staff knew exactly what was coming, and he outcoached Eric Spoelstra once again. Beautiful. And that quote right there tells me everything I need to know about this ball club. You can tear Joel down, you can tear Tyrese down, but you know who still is going to step up at the end of the day? Nick Nurse. And Nico Batum was ready, and he executed the game plan very well at the very end because they knew what was coming and they did their homework, and that ended up paying dividends. It really did. So I wanted to just start there because I saw this quote, and I wanted to make sure that I talked about it because I think that really does matter. Nico knew exactly what was coming because the coaching staff just had him ready, and they knew what was to come, and he was prepared. Good job, Nick Nurse. Good job, coaching staff. So that's insane. Really, really wild. I saw a tweet from Sean Bernard that I wanted to kind of talk about too. Shout out to Sean Bernard, by the way. He does a really good job covering the Sixers. I wanted to just scroll down and see. There was a quote that he had that I was... Okay, so he said this. A couple of big picture takeaways from the Sixers tonight. 1, Sixers played their worst half of the season and picked themselves up off the mat. I think that that's a very, very good point because that first half sucked. That first half, they were getting outplayed. It felt like they should have been down by 30. Let's be honest, Tyler Hero was off today. And Jimmy was making big buckets, but nobody else was stepping up. So even though Tyler's missing wide open shots, that leaves the door open. They had a chance to close this thing out early on in the first half. But again, I said that in this game, the Sixers have to make shots. And when they mattered the most down the stretch, they did. But yes, he's right. They played their worst first half of the season. Joel Embiid dominated down the stretch. And that is something that I need to give Joel praise for because, let's be real, his overall game tonight was putrid. He did not do a good job offensively. He was 2 for 10 in the first half. That's the worst first half that he has ever had this season. 2 for 10? And he had only 3 rebounds? But down the stretch, man, what does he do? He hits a big 3. He gets fouled by Hawkes with about 2 minutes to go, makes both of his free throws, gets back on the defensive side, guards the paint, has Jaime pass it back out because they don't want to go up against that big guy. And then Jaime turns it over. And now all of a sudden, the Sixers are back in this. As soon as Embiid hit that 3 to put the Sixers up by 3, I said that this game is probably going to be over. Because that shot that Joel hit at the top of the key from 3, that was a firework. And then he comes back on the defensive side. He plays good post defense down low on Bam Adebayo. He leaps up. He grabs the rebound. All of a sudden, the Sixers have the momentum again. They have them on the ropes. He makes 2 more free throws at the line and is aggressive, and he gets fouled. And those big shots down the stretch that Joel caused, he was great. And that's all that they needed because Nico Batum kept them in this game. It's like something that I would have never drew up in my wildest dreams. Third point, Nick Nurse benched Tobias Harris in the closing lineup. And let's go to this chat right here because Embiid did not pout. You are right about that. While Embiid sucked tonight, his mental toughness was phenomenal. And I know people that have come at me that have said, okay, Embiid has the skills, but does he have this? Does he have the Mamba mentality? And I think tonight he had a lot of mental toughness. He knew that there weren't going to be a lot of foul calls. Tony Brothers is a guy, especially in the playoffs, when he blows the whistle, it's not going to be a lot of times, right? It wasn't going to be for a lot of times. And Embiid did not pout. He got back on defense, and he played through it. He did. Excellent job by Joel from that regard. I knew we had the W after the brickin' for chicken. Well, honestly, that played a big factor too. It really did. And even Nick Nurse said, when the crowd got back into it, the Sixers were able to go on a run, and that was all they needed. They needed that boost. And home court advantage does matter because they got that. It was huge. It was really, really huge. I want to also give credit. Well, he also said that his fourth point was that, quote, the supporting cast stepped up when they needed to. Let's also give flowers to Tyrese Maxey because I know that he didn't have the best game by any means, but he played really good defense on the perimeter and just did enough. I know that he's not like a great defensive player, and they really tried to, poke a hole into his weakness, but he stayed on his guys, and he played zone when the Sixers really needed him to play that zone defense down the stretch. And I thought that there were times where the guards weren't really doing a good job at getting good looks because Maxey was guarding the passing lanes. And I really liked that, and I have to give him credit for that. And he was still buzzing downhill. He was still trying to be aggressive. He still kept his head down, and he still tried to finish through hard contact. This was a gutsy win. And even Tyrese Maxey, who didn't even have the best game at all whatsoever, saw a lot of double coverages, saw a lot of blitzes, and even at the end of the game was still running up and down the floor and was still that burst of lightning. This team showed me that they have a lot of heart. This game in particular was the game I needed to see because even when their two best players were not on their alpha game, they still played really well on the defensive side. And Nick Nurse still really coached his butt off. He did. So, can you imagine the 76ers played their at game, forget about it? Can you imagine when the Sixers play their game? Yep, forget about it. I know, man. There was something else that I wanted to pull up too. And I apologize that it's not up here, but I had it up before. It had to do with the Sixers playing, it had to do with a quote from Nick Nurse. There was a quote from Nick Nurse that I wanted to talk about. There we go. Look at that, doctor. Could you imagine? This person, shout out to them, just as a picture of Doc Rivers. That's funny. That's absolutely funny. But there was something else that I wanted to say. Okay, so the John Clark thing. Nico Batum, 5 for 7 from 3. Sixers up, 12 points off the bench. But there was one other thing I wanted to say, and I can't remember what it was. There was something that was up here that I really wanted to talk about that I thought was a really, really good one. They have the Batum block. Here we go. This was a quote from Joel. Quote, I feel like we just kept trusting each other over and over. That quote right there, again, tells me that Nick Nurse had these guys locked in. I didn't think that they were doing a good job in the first half, but they made the adjustments when they had to. They attacked. They actually did destroy that zone. They did. And all of a sudden, He says, you know what, Tobias, go. Go. We're sitting you down. We're sitting you down, and we're going to a guard lineup. And I thought that they would get out rebounded, but it worked. And that's the thing that Eric Spoelstra couldn't adjust to. They had to play with more guards. And then Buddy Hield comes in during the fourth quarter, and he's attacking the zone, and he's making layups, and he's breaking through. So that makes a difference as well. I don't know why they stopped going to the zone at the beginning of the third quarter. That, I thought, was also a flaw on Spoelstra, too. And I don't really think anybody's talking about that. But when they did go back to it, the Sixers were ready because they were making their shots. And Nico had the hot hand. And now you got to think to yourself, well, he's getting hot. We can't leave him wide open because he's going to make us pay. And then he goes back on the defensive side. He goes back on the defensive side. And he's playing this unbelievable defense on Jimmy Butler. What? Oh. There was one play. I saw him just tagged on Jimmy Butler. Butler's dribbling around the timeline. And he's fighting through a screen. Adebayo sets it. And Nico just whizzes by Bam Adebayo. It could have been a mismatch. Tyrese Maxey could have been on him. But guess what? Batum stayed with it. He fought through that screen. What? Oh, my gosh. It was just that type of feistiness that you needed tonight. It was a team effort, and that's what they needed. Oubre, I thought, in this game wasn't really doing a good job in the first half. But then, during the guts of the game, he comes up with a big bucket down the stretch. Embiid has this beautiful dime. And Oubre's underneath the basket, and he makes this layup. And he gets fouled by Butler. That was clutch, too. Oubre also hits you 2 big free throws down the stretch to put you up by 4 points. What was it, like 104 to 100 at the time? I know that Miami made a couple of buckets, too, and then Maxey had to make free throws. You know, clutch shots. This team had balls tonight. They put every one of their balls on the table. That's what I loved about this game. This was a passionate win, and they really put their hearts and souls out there tonight, and they left everything on the court. Never in the wildest dreams would I ever have imagined it turned out to be like that tonight. This was the best thing. And we know what the other side has been like. We do. We know what the other side has been like. And finally, for the first time in forever, something right happened for the Sixers. Nico and Larry, he's right about this. Guess what? So Jaquez turns the ball over, and guess what? Nico gets a steal in the backcourt, and all of a sudden, Embiid gets back in the offense, and he hits that big three. Jaquez's turnover there, bro, that is insane. That I have to give not just Jaquez blame for that, but I do have to blame Spoelstra for that too, because apparently Jaquez didn't understand what the play call was, and it's just an easy steal from Nico Batum. And then Embiid gets the three, and that big three from the top of the key was the game, in my opinion, at the time. I thought that was literally one big nail in the coffin. And then, after that, this is where Larry's point comes in. Because Tyler Hero, now he has the ball, and now they're trying to do like a little dribble handoff, and Hero's foot, his right foot, it was the right play, it was the right call. It was absolutely the right call. It stepped right on the white line, and it was a backcourt violation. They should have called one before, but they missed it, but they got that call right. And that was a big turnover, and the Sixers made a big bucket after that shot, or after that defensive play. It was a tie game at that point. Miami makes a bucket there, we may have a different result because Miami had the momentum. And then they just turned it over. Like, that was a stupid mistake, and Tyler Hero has to know better. But Nico, to his credit, caused that backcourt violation because he tipped it right off of Hero's foot, and Hero didn't understand like where his footing was, and I give him credit for that because that's a veteran move going up against a guy like Tyler Hero. I'm just really proud of this team. I know that Joel didn't have the best game, but I do know that when the team needed him, he was clutch. He was money. He really was. He hit big-time free throws. He hit big-time shots. I was really proud of just the team effort tonight. Now, Embiid has to be better. There's no doubt about it. But the mental toughness that he had tonight was A+. It was. It was A+. Bam Adebayo is not easy, okay? There's not a lot of guys that can single-handedly guard Joel Embiid. Bam's one of those guys that can really make Joel feel like he's in trouble. And I don't think that the knee was 100% tonight, but that's how I feel. I think that he did a very good job, and he did just enough for the Sixers to win, and he came up strong when they needed him. That's all I got to say. Buddy Hield said this, "I'm just happy that we got a win." Quote, "I'm glad I can go to the playoffs for the first time." And Buddy played well. Buddy actually played pretty good when he came in. And again, credit to Nick Nurse for going to that guard lineup. They tried to dribble handoffs between Embiid and him. It wasn't working. And guess what? They needed a playmaker, and they decided, you know what? We're going to give the ball to Buddy. And we'll have Lowry and Maxey out there, but Buddy can make plays for himself too. And Buddy was attacking that zone a couple of times. I see him out in transition, or even when they set the offense up, he dribbles it with the right hand, he takes it all the way to the rack, and he's able to make a layup. They needed those plays too, because the defense understands how to prepare for Kyle Lowry and for Tyrese Maxey. But now, you think that Buddy is just a shooter, like a spot-up shooter when he's wide open. No, he can dribble the rock too. He just doesn't really do it that much. And tonight it worked. That is also something else that they needed as well. All right, let's get to some comments down below. I do want to play some phone calls that people had that I wanted to talk about those. And again, if you want to come onto the Discord, we started the event. I will post the event down below. I'll invite people. We'll copy it. And I want to hear what your thoughts are, because, there's a lot to talk about, and there's so many good things that we can just talk about in this game. All right, let's get into some of these other things. Tobias Harris. Okay, put the camera on me for a second. Toby, that was the weirdest game that you've ever had. How in the world does my man play physical at some points and get you rebounds, but then he airballs 2 threes? One of them was a wide open look with 4 minutes to go, and that could have tied the game. He airballed it? Really? Airballed a 3, and you airballed 2 layups. 2 layups, man. Missed 2 layups. Wide open. Yes, you got rebounds. Yes, you played physical. But I can't dismiss those 2 things, because Nick Nurse did the right thing by benching him when he did. I never thought that I would literally be this mad about Tobias Harris. And I know he's a good guy. But how do you airball a wide open 3? Joel gives it to you, and you airball it with 4:15 to go? Come on. I gotta bring that up. I can't just not talk about it, because that is unacceptable. You're better. You're better than that, man. At the same time, though, you got a lot of good rebounds. You did. Now, other guys were boxing out, and therefore you were able to get your rebounds that way, but you got those rebounds. He was good, and he was also atrocious at the same exact time. And I needed to bring both of those things up because I can't shy away from Bad Toby. I give him the flowers when he deserves it, and I give him the heat when he deserves it too. And tonight was just one of those nights where he deserved both because you cannot airball a wide open three and miss two easy layups. He literally had the ball. I'll never forget this. This picture still is in my head. 7 minutes and 35 seconds to go, I believe it was. Okay, he's going down the hill. He's going downhill. And he goes up with a layup with that right hand. Okay, he's covered the first time. Grabs his own rebound. Next time, literally, he's wide open. And yet he just, bing, like, it's kind of like, you know, like those people that like tiptoe like around like the house or whatever, like they don't like want to like wake up the neighbors or whatever, so they don't like want to sound like that they're loud. So if you're on like the upper floor, you don't like want to stomp or whatever. You like want to tiptoe your way. That's what that was. And Toby, come on, man, got to be better than that. That's all I gotta say about Tobias Harris. And I just needed a moment to just have the camera on me because I needed to get that off my chest. At least you were physical, though, when you were, and you did get those rebounds. I can't discredit you for that, but you cannot airball 2 threes, especially one with 4 minutes to go in the game, and literally miss those 2 layups as well. It's not even miss the layups. It's that he was wide open. That's what you call a bunny. Can't happen. So, what else do we have? What else do I want to talk about before we go to the phones? Larry said that it was too delicate. Yep, I agree. Nick Nurse is going to be the difference maker versus the Knicks. He's going to make the adjustments that have to be made. I will talk about the Knicks tomorrow. Okay? I will talk about Nick versus the Knicks tomorrow. Okay, we'll have a podcast about that, and we will talk about it, for sure. But I was, at some points in this game, I'll never forget, I was starting to question Nick Nurse, and I was starting to come up with some questions, and then all of a sudden, he just puts up a masterpiece and outcoaches Eric Spoelstra. Spoelstra's probably going to go to sleep tonight and say to himself, I'm like one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the NBA. And this guy right here, who's a tactician, who won at the G League level, who won at the highest of levels in every single basketball, like, state. Like, literally, he won overseas twice. He won at the G League level. He won at the NBA level. Like, he's just a winner. You think that Milwaukee is probably looking at him saying, man, like, I wish that we had that guy now? Because I do. I really do. That's, like, something that really, like, popped into my head just now as we speak. They're probably saying, man, I wish we had that guy. Because you could have had him. He wanted to come to you. That's the funny thing about it. He wanted to go to Milwaukee. And yet, guess who said no? Giannis. So thank you. I love Nick Nurse, and that's beautiful. It's great. What else did I want to talk about tonight? Paul Reed. Okay. Paul played okay. I was surprised that they didn't go to the big lineup, but then I was happy that they didn't because I was really impressed with going to that small ball lineup. They didn't really need guys to get rebounds. They needed guys to make offensive possessions and break through that 2-3 zone that Miami runs that is just almost unstoppable. And it worked. So, again, I know coaches of the past that probably would have went to a bigger lineup and probably would have kept Tobias Harris in there during that whole entire fourth quarter and then brought in the big man with 5 minutes left. Now, to be fair, Joel did come out with about 7:56 to go, but then he came right back in with 5 minutes to go. It wasn't like he was sitting out the whole entire fourth quarter and then came back in with 5:56. Because I know coaches that would do that too. It's just great that we have this guy on our side. They rebounded the ball really well. Larry said that they're going to really need to rebound the ball well against Bam. And Bam is a double-double machine. And Kevin Love off their bench, he out-rebounded us. He had 15 rebounds in 10 minutes the last time that we played him. Kevin Love is a great rebounder. He's a great player. He's not the guy that he used to be, right? Neither is Kyle Lowry. But Kevin Love has really been a difference maker for them. And Love got into some foul trouble at the end when he was guarding Joel. And guess what? They kind of had to make a switch that way too. And that was because Joel finally was starting to step up offensively. And that I was really happy about. But Paul Reed overall tonight, he had one play. I will not forget this, and I want to make sure I mention this. But Paul Reed did have one play where he did get an offensive rebound in front of 4 different Heat players. I have to make sure that I do talk about that because that was big as well. They needed every rebound that they could against that team because that team is not somebody that you can sleep against. You got to play every minute. They're not just going to flat out die. But I wasn't really too impressed with him, coming in off the bench. But he did have that one big rebound that I was really, really happy with. And Toby, it's funny because Toby had a play even after he airballed a layup where he was running through traffic. He got the rebound off the miss. And he was running through traffic, and he literally handed it off to Paul Reed. And Reed got the 2, and he called a timeout from there. I thought that was an interesting play call, too. But, yeah. All right. Romp just said something else that was really cool. He said the quote, shout out to Romp, man. Quote, this Sixers team is awesome, such a likable group, totally different compared to years past. If there's one takeaway I have from tonight, it's that the Sixers aren't going to flat out die. The Sixers are going to give you everything that they have in the tank. And they will find ways to grind you down. That's, in years past, that would never happen. Joel finally has the help that he needs. And there's no excuse this year. The mental toughness is real. And that is what I learned tonight. This team has grit. They have heart. They have mental toughness. And they needed that in this win. It could have gone either way. We've been on the other side. But they battled. And they came back. And they didn't even have to do that. All right, let's get to the phones, baby. All right, let's play some people's voicemails. All right, so here we go. Oh wait, hold up 1 second. I forgot I have to put the Bluetooth on. The Bluetooth has to be on, so bear with me. Bear with me 1 second. I should have done this before. I really should have. Okay, will this work? Connection's unsuccessful. Come on, bro. Come on. Keep typing in the chat, though, because I want to hear what you guys do have to say. Mental toughness, Larry says. Depth, just got to worry about one knee. It's a good point. It's a very, very good point. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys like and subscribe and hit the notification bell icon, and that way you'll know when I go live. For some reason, our Bluetooth is not working on here, so let's try this again. There we go. Is it going to connect now? There we go. Good. All right. Let's do this.
Sixers, baby. I told you. Don't ever doubt them.
Wait. Hold up. What? Hold up. What? What'd you say? What'd you say, my boy?
Woo! Yeah, let's go, Jay. Woo! Sixers, baby. I told you. Don't ever doubt them. Trust me. Trust me, brother. Yeah, man. Let's go.
Shout out to my boy Josh. Oh, he's so funny. Woo! Like when he said that. He was right. I got a little nervous, but he was right. He was right. Shout out to Josh, man. That was they deserved. Honestly, I want to say that they didn't really deserve to win that game, but they did. They did and didn't deserve to win that game because in the very beginning of the game, before the Miami showed that zone with about 6:42 left to go, if I'm not mistaken, they played good. And then all of a sudden, the Heat turned the zone on. Like the temperature started to get really hot at the WFC. The crowd was being taken out of it, and then it started to get really hot. It makes me think. Okay, here's a good analogy. You know how, like, when Spencer Strider plays against the Phillies, right, and he dominates you and he grinds you down for, like, 7 innings? Well, guess what? If the pitching on the other side is still doing their job of the bargain and Aaron Nola is giving you 8 strong innings and he only allows you 3 hits, no earned runs, but all of a sudden, in that 8th inning, Spencer Strider's out there with his awful mustache. And trust me, I know Spencer Strider. I wish him nothing but the best. I really do because, that's a really tough injury. But just going back to my point really quickly, Spencer Strider has that mustache on him. All of a sudden, there's a runner over at second base. And then Trey Turner, out of all people, is the one that comes up with a base hit to give the Phillies the 1-0 lead. And that one run is like equivalent to 10 runs. That right there, the analogy that I'm trying to make is literally that was how Erik Spoelstra was coaching for the Miami Heat tonight, and then Nick Nurse just took advantage. When he threw a fastball, Erik Spoelstra, Nick Nurse hit a home run. That's what happened. I think that that's a very good analogy to make there because it was that one little mistake where they got the crowd back involved and you missed the 2 free throws. That matters. And Nick Nurse did it. So I think that that's a very good analogy to make. I'm trying to think of like anything else I wanted to just talk about in regards to just this game alone. Let me make sure that I put this over here. Okay. Good stuff. And again, if you want to come on, please let me know. Join the Discord server. Tyler Hero had 25 points tonight. My guy had 25 points. And yet he was 9 for 27 from the field. It did not feel like he took over that game. Now, he made some tough buckets down the stretch, but the Sixers answered back. I have to give him that. But I really thought that they did a good job of just neutralizing Tyler Hero. Embiid led the way with 23 points. Now, he had 15 rebounds and 1 steal. But again, it was not a dominating Joel Embiid performance in 38 minutes, offensively speaking. Defensively speaking, kept them involved. He really did. And I am proud about that. What else? What else do I want to talk about? Kyle Lowry tonight. Lowry, I thought, didn't have as good of a game as I thought he was going to have. I didn't think he was going to play well. And what I wanted to go back to really quickly was Buddy Hield as a playmaker. Buddy Hield as a playmaker was such a difference tonight because even statistically he had 6 assists. So that's what I'm saying in regards to him being another ball handler and with Nick Nurse actually making that right adjustment there because Buddy, that's something that's underrated about his game is that he can make plays for other people. I'm not saying that he should do it all the time, but tonight it worked because Erik Spoelstra and that whole entire defense of the Miami Heat did not anticipate that at all. They did not. So, and that I think was the snowball effect into where the Sixers actually took over the game. Buddy, I thought, really was sharp at just getting the ball and making plays for other people, and also going downhill, too, when he had to. So, for once, the Sixers have guard depth. That's the insane thing about it. That, I think, is really, really wild. Jaquez. Yeah, 15 points for him off the bench tonight. He was 6 for 11. I'm talking about the Heat for a quick second. I thought that Jaquez was a guy that really cost them the game. But the Sixers capitalized on his mistakes. Did he have a nice layup down the stretch? He did. But he also had a very big turnover down the stretch, too. It was a careless pass. A careless inbound pass. And Nico picked it off. And Embiid drained a big three. And called Kobe. That was it. Let's look at some team stats. What's up, Andre? What's up, bro? DFJ's here. What's up, man? How you doing, bro? Thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it. The Sixers, you know that they only shot 34% from three, and the Heat shot 36%. I said this before, that the Heat had their opportunities, man. They really did. They really had their opportunities, and it was their time to shine at some points, but they just could not. They just could not hit the timely shots, and the Sixers did. That's how our hero made a big bucket down the stretch again. It was a big three-pointer, but it was too late. It was too little, too late, and the Sixers escaped. They got that win. So that was awesome. They out-rebounded the Heat tonight. They did not out-rebound the Heat the last time that they played, and tonight they did. And I actually think that was why they also won, too. Because not only did they make timely buckets, but they got big rebounds when they needed it. Nah, I can't be mad about that. I really can't. I cannot be disappointed about that. They only had 4 turnovers in the second half. They had, I think, they had 16 total turnovers. But I think that they had 12 in the first half. I know that they only had 2 in the third quarter. And that's what really got them back into this game. But they did a much better job at taking care of the basketball, and they boxed out when they had to. Great win. Really, really solid win for the Sixers. That, I think, was their best team win of the season. And it could not have come at a better time. Yeah, 12 in the first half. Yep, 12. Okay, so they ended the game with 4 in the second half. The Heat had a lot of turnovers, too, down the stretch. They had like 3 turnovers during the last minute of the game, and they did deserve to lose because of that. So that's why I'm like going back and forth. Like, did the Sixers deserve to win? Yes, they did. And no, in the beginning, they didn't. But with the way that they played in that second half, they absolutely deserved it. And the Heat deserved to lose. They did. So, all right. What's up, Bolts Nation Pod? Thanks so much for coming on here. W6ers, also didn't see this before, but congrats on 2K. Yep, we just hit that tonight, man. I appreciate that. JK, my boy JK said, I ran through the brick wall. You ran through the zone? Did you run through our Spolstra zone? The Heat turnovers were huge. Yes, they were. Yes, they were. You remember that one time, and then I'll go back to the Discord and I'll see if anybody wants to come on for just a couple of minutes just to talk things up. Do you remember that one time when the Eagles were playing against the Dallas Cowboys this year? It was the first game that they played against Dallas. And Dak Prescott, on a 2-point conversion, stepped out of bounds. The analogy that I'm making here is that in that point, it's a 2-point conversion. You're not watching your right foot. That's not a football play. That's not on the play callers. That's not on anybody else but you. Because you knew that you were out of bounds. And I bring that up because Tyler Hero needs to know where his foot is. He has to know. If it hits that white line at the half-court set, that's a turnover, and that was costly. So I bring that up because I think that that's a very good analogy because you got to watch your footing. Dak had to watch his footing, and he lost the game because of that. Because then, if you remember correctly, they had to actually go for a touchdown in order to win when all he could have done was just ran it right through the end zone and just watched his foot And if his foot wasn't on the white chalk, it's a different game. Because then they go for the 3. But no, they had to go for the touchdown. It's the same exact thing in regards to Tyler Hero. So that's what I wanted to bring up. He didn't watch his footing, and he screwed up, and the Sixers took advantage of it. Credit to Nico Batum for causing that to happen, but Tyler Hero was not watching. So, sorry, tonight is all about the Sixers. But that was the analogy that I wanted to make. Yes, okay, the Eagles are a whole nother story, I know, but that's the analogy I wanted to make. All right, if we have people waiting on the phones, let's see if we have anybody on here. I don't think so. There was one other voicemail I think that I got. I think there was one other one that I got. Was there? No. I played Josh's. That was really good. But yeah. All right, cool. All right, so we just got Josh's. That's cool. All right, guys. I'm going to head out, but man, we will talk about the Knicks tomorrow. We'll focus on the next opponent. I'm too exhausted to talk. I got to get some sleep. Yep, I think that we're going to wrap things up now. Tomorrow, I am going to go live, and we are going to talk about getting ready for New York, because I think that it's really important that we do that. We need to talk about what's to come next, because as great as this win was, there are things that I need to talk about with certain individuals in regards to preparing for that series, because that's a huge series. That's not going to be easy either. Okay, this is a tough road for the Sixers. They can get this done, but it's not going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. And the Knicks are another one of those teams that are kind of like the Heat. They're, I think, just as good as them. But yeah, you need to make sure that you keep Jalen Brunson in check. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Tomorrow's another day. Okay, but I did want to just let you know that we are going to go live tomorrow. I will post an announcement on it in the community tab, and we'll talk about that. No Phillies game tomorrow. We will just be talking more about the Sixers. All right, I'm going to sign off. I love you guys, and I will catch you all tomorrow night. Go Sixers, baby! Come on!